All right, everyone. Thanks for joining another episode of The Call in the Crowd, a Ref Masters podcast on Spotify. I am here with our usual group, Kane Fitzgerald, VP Head of Replay at the NBA, and James Zucci Williams, NBA referee of 14 years. But we have a very, very special guest with us. We have Laz Diaz, Major League Baseball umpire, with us today. Laz, how are you? Thanks for joining us today.
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. Most definitely. James, how you doing?
Doing well, mi hermano.
Mr. Fitzgerald, it's a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise. I'm looking forward to it.
I got to say, I'm doing it all wrong. You know, the place I sit at when I work every day, I have a very modest office chair. I'm not in the the type of seating that you have. I think I've got to level up at some point. You look comfortable, but that's all going to change in a few weeks once the baseball season starts, I guess, right?
Actually, it will not, because I do spring training here in Florida, so I'll be home for another extra month.
Did you always live in Florida, or was this something that you did so that you could have your extra month here in the spring?
Well, I was born and raised in Miami, and then when I met my future wife, she lived here in Orlando, and I met her in '98. When I had spring training, my first day of spring training here. So I met her in '98, and at the end of the year, after the season was over with, I moved up here with her, and it turned out very well, because the following year, '99, I got hired, and in 2000, both leagues combined.
So, as you know, Ref Masters up till now has really been focused on basketball. James and Kane with their experience there. But one of our big goals is that we want to be a platform for all the major sports. And in the next couple of weeks and months, we're making a big push in baseball, which is part of why we're so excited to have you in this conversation today. Before we get into the world of Major League Baseball and umpiring, though, maybe we could start at the beginning. Maybe not the beginning, but let's talk about the beginning of your sports officiating career. When did it start for you?
Living in Miami, I played high school and I played college. I even played in the minor leagues with the Minnesota Twins in '84. '85, I tried out with the Cardinals in St. Pete, got hurt. They wanted to keep me, but without a contract, just stay there for extended spring, and I said no. I sat out '86 and '87. I tried one more year with the Yankees over in Fort Lauderdale. Their spring training was over in Fort Lauderdale, and it didn't work out so well. So that year I hung them up. Following that year, a good friend of mine that we used to play baseball together, so he goes, "Hey, let's go umpire." I said, "All right, let's go umpire." We got into high school and Sunday leagues and other amateur leagues and slow pitch and everything. So I enjoyed it. I liked it. I wasn't very good. I wasn't good at all. I was still learning, trying to get my feet wet. I didn't have no kind of timing, no kind of judgment, nothing. So I remember one day going to one of the college meetings. I almost halfway there, I turned around and I said, "What are you doing?
Oh, wow.
You don't have the skills to umpire the big boys in college right now. Why are you going to these meetings and wasting your time?" And I had paid my dues and everything. So I turned around, came back, and one of my friends called me and goes, "Hey, what happened to your meeting?" I said, "I'm not going to any more meetings. I need to prepare myself. I need to get better." So he says, "Well, let's go over to I'm gonna bring you over to the boys club on 42nd and US 1. Just imagine, Alex Rodriguez played there, Raul Ibanez played there, Mike Lowell, a lot of guys that played in big leagues played there, Shannon Stewart." So these kids were 9, 10 years old, and they were short, so I had to get on one knee, and my judgment got better, my timing got better, just working those lower leagues. And then after I did that, after a year, I was felt better, felt prepared, and then I went back to college. And after a couple of years doing in college, a good friend of my dad's that umpired when I played and I had just gotten divorced. He goes, now that you're divorced, you have nothing holding you back. Just go to umpire school. Now, I didn't know there was an umpire school. I went, and I was blessed and lucky enough to come out as #1 student. Went to Boardwalker baseball off of 27th, where the Royals trained at. As a matter of fact, on the day after my birthday, doing a college game in Boca Raton, they called me and said, "Hey, go to West Palm Beach. You're going into the Braves camp to do spring training." So that was a good birthday present. So,
Was that their way of saying you were hired, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was your hiring call.
That's my
Okay.
hiring call. So once you go to spring training, there was only 5 assignments in spring training. They told me I this would be, top of the list and all that. But once I got called to go to spring training, you knew that you were in. Everybody could officiate, but when you handle situations, that's where the big money is. That's where you get your job, because everybody could call balls and strikes, saves and outs, but when you get there and everything hits the fan and you got to handle situations, that's
Yeah.
plus. Like, James, I mean, running up and down the court and calling foul and charging and all that. Hey, okay. But when they start jumping on your case and
Yeah.
you got to handle yourself and explain why you called this and why you gave him a tech and all that.
Yeah.
That's the big money. That's where. So I was blessed to go there and learn how to handle situations. Got promoted 2 years later, 95 to AAA, and halfway through the season, got a call to go to Detroit. So worked 3 games, Milwaukee, Detroit. So I've been lucky and I've been blessed, most definitely.
So a lot of stops in that whole progression. You talked about Cocoa, and I don't ever talk to people that talk about Cocoa in Florida. I grew up about 35 minutes from Cocoa, and I could tell you there's really nothing there except there was a Pizza Hut buffet when I was a kid. Cocoa. That was the reason to go to Cocoa, for the Pizza Hut buffet. But I digress. In that whole journey, was there a point where it went from something that you were interested in, that you were getting better at it, to something that you went, okay, I know this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be my next career?
Yes. When I was in rookie ball, when I went out there and I played baseball. So I played high school, played college, I played in the minor leagues. So it was kind of easy to me, because I was thinking the way the players were thinking, which way they were going to throw the ball, where their next play was. So it was their way of thinking. I knew that when they were going to try to deke somebody, when they were doing things. So because that's the way I played when I played baseball. I was high strung. I was hyper. I was a go getter, and my job was to win at all costs. So it kind of made it easy to me umpiring, because I knew the ins and outs as a player. And once I was a rookie ball, I'm like, this is my calling here. And I remember telling one of my coworkers that I said, I'm gonna get to the big leagues. No matter how, I'm gonna get to the big leagues. Either a clubhouse guy or cleaning up the field, groundskeeper. But I'm and every time I go to Cincinnati now, I still talk to him. So when I go to Cincinnati and I see him, we go out and have lunch. He reminds me, he goes, I remember you telling me you're gonna get to the big leagues, either the grounds crew or a clubhouse. And I told him I was gonna be there, and luckily I got there the way I wanted to be as an umpire.
You talked a little bit about handling situations. James and Kane came up with this slogan, "Run the game," which is what our slogan is at Ref Masters. And they talk about it a lot in basketball. It's one thing to call the black and white plays, managing the gray, handling those situations. Game management is really what separates a good referee from a great one. Did you have a trial by fire experience earlier in your career? Because one of the ways to learn how to handle situations, I imagine, is just to go through them. Is there an early career experience that sticks out to you?
Well, in rookie ball, my first year, it was raining over in Boardwalker baseball, where the Royals were at, and the Red Sox were there. and ball was slipping out of pitcher's hands, and they didn't like each other from the beginning. And ball got away, hit one of the guys, and all hell broke loose. Imagine, it was just, I was on the bases, my partner was behind the plate. It was raining all day, and it was just, I mean, a free for all, a free for all from all kinds of angles. And once we got everything settled, I remember 2 guys trying to clean up 50 guys from each team, because this is rookie ball now, because you got extra guys. And we took it on the chin, and we pulled everybody away. And, it was like a lot of Latino ball players, a lot of Americans, and there was a lot of cursing on both sides of the language. And these kids aren't used to, even in the big leagues, they're not used to somebody going berserk. But, 1 or 2 times, at least in the baseball world, coming up through the minors 2 or 3 times a year, 4 times, you got to just go absolutely cuckoo. And when you do that, the players, they look at you like, oh my God, did I really piss him off? And, in basketball, you can't do it that much because you're so close to the fans. But in baseball, when you're out there in second base or third base or first base, where you're so far away from the fans, there's a lot of things you can say that fans were not here. Behind the plate, you got to watch yourself. And if you see in the older days, all the umpires would turn their backs to the stands, so their voice would project out to the field, and the fans would not hear what's going on. But
it's funny you mentioned that, because one of our old teachers, his name was Ed Rush. And Ed Rush used to tell us all the time when we were coming up and he was training us. He would tell us, he would say, the players and coaches got to think you're crazy sometimes. Like, you got to have that in you where they just think, oh, this guy or this person, this lady, they're crazy. Like, and that just kind of backs them off. Like, when they think you have lost all.
When you lost your mind.
Yeah, lost your mind. They tend to back off. And it's actually, I tell the young people there today, I'll tell them, I was like, sometimes you're too nice. And like, it's okay for them to think you're a little crazy out here, because they will respect that a little bit more.
That's the art. Like, that's part of the craft that you learn when you're working in the Dominican or working the Nike Pro and all the pro-ams in Chicago and LA. Like, that's the art that you learn, and you build on that. And as a pro ref, you got to have it. Like, you have to be able to turn that on to be able to, another tool in your belt, so you're not just throwing people out, not giving technical fouls. You want to get the game back on track. Being crazy sometimes is the answer.
Man, you took the words right out of my mouth. Not all the time do you have to give them a technical foul or throw them out. You keep them in the game, and you just run up and down the court, and you're in their ear.
Yeah.
Tell you what, blah, 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 beep, 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 And the same thing with baseball. You get them as they're coming out to the field, and as they're running out to center field, outfield, or they're warming up at shortstop, you're in their ear, and you telling them, I tell you what, go. Nobody knows what's going on, because you're not yelling at them, but you're letting them have it.
Yeah. It's a great way to show strength when you need to. Yeah.
But you're absolutely right, Kane. You don't have to eject, and you don't have to give them a tech. You took the words right out of my mouth. Definitely.
It was like my mom and dad when they were raising us. All they had to do was give you a look.
Yes.
And that look meant you had crossed the line, and you had better get back behind the line quickly, or there were some severe consequences coming.
But, my dad, may rest in peace. When he looked at me, I just started crying. I knew there was a beating coming hard and tough, and I might have start the tears before I get the first hit.
Soften the blow a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been saying at Ref Masters recently that as a referee or an umpire, you have the whistle, you have your words, and you have your whole body. And you got to use every tool in your belt. Otherwise, you're shortchanging yourself. As you guys were talking about basketball and baseball. I was just thinking in my head, like, what would Laz look like refereeing a basketball game, or what would James or Kane look like umpiring a baseball game? And
Lord.
you guys are talking about the similarities and differences a little bit, but what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you know a lot of other sports officials in other sports. I've come to learn that sports officiating is a bit like a fraternity of individuals, right? There's always that respect and those friendships. What would you say is similar or different about what you do as an umpire in the baseball diamond versus what James and Kane do on the court as referees?
Well, if I would be on a referee side, I'd be a whole lot skinnier running up and down the court. That's for sure. You're standing at one base and, you know, you don't run that much, but go watch, you know, and it's funny because I'm sure James and Kane will attest to this. When I go watch a basketball game, I don't watch the game. I watch them working up and down. I went to the G League Monday here in Orlando for the Magic, and I knew one of the guys that was refereeing, and I was watching them up and down. And I had my grandson, and there was a female referee, and we got to meet him after. And the first thing he says, "Wow, you run fast." So this is a 9-year-old kid who knows what I do as an official. And I told him, "Oh, these are the officials." And that's what he was watching. He was watching the officials. And the first thing he said to the young ladies is, "Hey, you run fast." So, I mean, here you go. And we do that. I'm sure when James goes, he's watching us. And when I go, I'm definitely watching those. And you learn how their demeanor. You learn when there's a situation that they have. You're like, "Oh, okay. He got out of that situation, or maybe he didn't get out of that situation." So we learn from that. Even when I'm in replay, when there's a replay and there's a play, which maybe there's not a replay, I look at the positioning that the umpires are in. And I'm like, "Ooh, that's a good position. Maybe I need to get in that position next time." Because I probably missed a play not being in that same position. So I'm sure when James and Kane are over a replay, they're watching the same thing, watching what positioning the guys got in to make that call.
I'm always learning. There's always something new. I mean,
Yes.
there's a play you haven't seen before. There's a rule that comes up. It's like, oh, that's an obscure rule. We just had it the other day when I was in replay. We had a foul. The team's in the penalty, followed by a flagrant foul. Sony, you mentioned this the other day.
Yeah.
So the guy gets 4 free throws to make 3. You know, that very rarely happens. But, you know, there's always something going on that you can learn from when you're watching a game. And as a sports official, and we get the benefit when Laz comes to Chicago, when I'm out there watching them work, I'm watching them. I'm like watching their mechanics. I'm watching what they're doing because, you know, that's just the sports nerds in us, like officiating nerds. We're like always looking to see what the other folks are doing in the other leagues.
And believe me, when we go, when he's in Orlando, or I got some of the guys that I know, and we go out and talk about after, I asked them, "Why were you in this spot? What happened here?" Just to learn from where they're coming from their perspective of being on the court.
I think another thing that's different is the grind of a season for a baseball umpire. And it's interesting how when you work a series, right? So you're working the same matchup over multiple days and games. And I also imagine you work a lot more games during a season than James and Kane do. Talk to us a little bit about what the season-long grind is in terms of the amount of games and that rhythm of doing multiple games between the same teams in a row.
Yeah, we work a series, and then we go on to the next one. I might be in 3 different time zones in a week. You know, it's 3 days or 4 days, or maybe a two gamer. Living out of hotels, off. Usually there's Monday off and Thursdays off, and living from hotel to hotel, time zone to time zone. Get on the plane. I remember my young career. I used to take connections to get status on an airline, get more points. But now after 25 years and being 60 years old, it's like, I want to get there.
Yeah, that's right.
I will take Southwest flights to get to where I'm going, so I won't have to connect anymore. From Kansas City to St. Louis, where you got to go Southwest. So, it's not the preferred airline, but it's one flight. Get up and go down.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. 100%.
That was the best change we had. It was towards the end of my career. We switched to basically the NBA. We used to get a stipend. We booked our own travel. Then we went to the NBA, booking the travel, and that was the best part. Was that you didn't have to try and stay on airline anymore. You could take the most convenient direct flight, and that was the easiest travel year
Yes.
that I've ever had. Not that it was easy, but it was the most pleasant. That's for sure. Not having to connect all day. That was brutal.
And for us, it's tough because we got for a game that night. We got to leave first thing in the morning. We have delays, weather delays, flight delays, canceled flights. So usually we book when we book a flight, we book it on Delta, American, United, and maybe our backup is Southwest. And we're like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. In case we miss the first one, we catch up on the next one. And we don't have, sometimes the basketball officials, hockey officials, they have a day in between to get to the next city. We don't. We got to get to the next city. I remember a reporter from the Detroit Tigers a long time ago asked me, when do you feel comfortable? I said, as soon as I get to a city. When I get to a city, everything just, the wind comes out, I'm like, okay, I'm here. Because no matter what, I get in a cab, get on a bicycle, get whatever to get to the ballpark. I don't need to go to the hotel and check in. But as long as I land in that city, I'm happy. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can relate to that for sure. Once you get there, you're a big relief.
Yes.
To get there. Yeah. Hey, how many games total would you work in a season?
I think now the minimum is like 125. Because,
baby.
Yeah, we get 4 weeks off during the season, and then you count there's a lot of where we have 19 crews. So out of those 19 crews, there's a game every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There are 15 games. Everybody plays. There's only Mondays off and Thursdays off, where it's some of the teams that play. So we got 15 crews, 2 crews on replay, and 2 crews that'll be off. But the three weeks of replay and the 4 weeks off, it came down when I first started, when we didn't have no replay. I was doing 143 games. The max I did one year was 146. It was like from 138 to 146 in between. But now with replay, it knocks it down another 3 weeks, so we're like to 120, 125.
So Laz, tell me, what's it like making a call, having someone curse really loudly in your face, being all demonstrative, possibly having to throw them out of the game, and then seeing them tomorrow and doing another game? What's that like?
Great question.
It's something that I had to adjust and learn. And all the officials, actually, not just baseball officials, basketball officials, hockey officials. Those I named those 2 because we work almost every other day. Football officials, they're there on Sunday, and you got a whole week before you see anybody else.
Right.
You've got to take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, okay. And it was tough at the beginning. I'm very thankful because I joined the Marine Corps in 81. So going to Marine Corps boot camp in 81, it kind of helped me out because those drill instructors called us everything from A to Z in boot camp. You had to sit there and take it. And it wasn't nothing personal. That's just the way they were. And again, on the field, on the court, it's not nothing personal. They did they're players. They get pissed off over a caller, but the next day you gotta, once I tell the guys, especially the young guys when I was coming up, I'm like, hey, if I think they had a bad game, objection, I said, once we leave this locker room, it's over with.
That's right.
We're not going to talk about it anymore.
That's
We're
right.
not gonna discuss it. Let's get it all out right here. We got an hour in the locker room, taking a shower, eat, relax. And once we leave this locker room, it's over with. It's a new day. And, and it's like that. I remember having a big old discussion with Lou Piniella in Boston. And I ejected him, and we went toe-to-toe. And in Boston, you got to go through the tunnel out of their dugout, visiting dugout. And I'm coming through, and he looks at me and says, hey, lad, what's up? How you doing? He gives me a big hug. And, and I give him a big hug and go about my business. So there's some players and managers that take it personal.
Yep.
But the majority of them, they're just like, it's a new day. Let's go. So, and I've learned how to take that in stride as well.
That's really good advice, Laz. Yeah.
I was just
not
saying,
easy. I mean, that's what being a professional is, though.
Mm-hmm. James, you say all the time, as a referee, you have to have a short memory.
Yep. It's over and you move on. And, it's just such a competitive environment out there between those lines.
Mm-hmm.
You have type A personalities from the players, the coaches, the umpires. Everybody's type A. That's the only way you make it to the big leagues.
Yep.
No matter what sport you make it in. It was Doc Rivers who told me. I was like, Doc, I'm working on my communication with coaches and stuff because they think I'm arrogant. He says, James, everybody out here is arrogant. That's why we're in the NBA. And I've never forgotten that. It's just part of, you don't get there without some arrogance. You just don't.
Yeah.
But you learn over the course of time when you get older and wiser, you move on. Okay, you said your piece. I said my piece. It's a wash and it's a new day.
It definitely is. That's great. I couldn't have said any better, James. You go about your business.
Yep.
Take a step back, take a deep breath. Okay, let's go. Because then if you get pissed off at that coach, that manager, that team, then your game just goes downward. It just spirals to the bottom of the pile, and you don't want that. You want to keep the same level of intensity, the same groove the whole game. And I've seen it where I've taken it personal, and I'm like, "Ooh, I don't like this team anymore." And my whole game, I start out with a great game, and that short span, then I'm messing up not only for that team that I ejected the manager and the player, but for the other team too, because I'm not concentrating. I'm just so pissed and so mad that I take it out on both teams, and that's not good because then my whole game just goes in the toilet.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this obviously for a long time now. As you're seeing umpires earlier in their career come up, not just at the professional level, but even at high school, right? What are the things that you're seeing umpires should be focusing on more in their own development? What are the opportunity areas? The reason why I ask, Laz, is because at Ref Masters, as I mentioned, we're looking to get more into baseball this year. And as we think about the types of content, the types of sessions we do in the future, what are the things that we should be trying to focus on with younger umpires in terms of their development?
Well, just the mechanics, keep it simple. At the beginning, you got to keep it simple and not try to be too fancy. Like the players that you see in high school, college, they emulate the big leaguers, and they want to throw their bat in the air. They want to, give it's. And I tell the umpires too. I'm like, hey, be your own person, but make it simple. You don't have to call balls and strikes like Dutch Renning, where he used to come out. You make it simple. The more simpler you make your calls, and they've always said, even in all sports, officials are there to be not to be seen.
Yeah.
So and that's in every single sport. If you're being seen in official world, then you're doing something wrong. You're not there to be seen. It's not your game. It's their game. You're just there trying to keep them apart from killing each other.
Yeah,
Really
exactly.
good. I think we could probably apply that for officials in basketball and any sport.
Yes, yes.
One of the things we say, one of our principles at Ref Masters is it's not about you.
Yeah.
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 What about from a technical perspective for you coming up? Because it told us earlier today that you were struggling with the craft early on, right? And you felt like you're like, yeah, I don't even belong to be out here yet. What were the things that you had to really work on? Was there a certain area? Was it the strike zone? Was it, being able to call outs at bases? Was it some other kind of part of the game? What was it for you, and how did you hone your skills to improve in the way that you did?
Well, like in every sport, every official, your timing, you got to get confident and just to slow down. The game is quick enough, and if you try to stay with it, you're gonna lose concentration. You're gonna lose your calls. Just to concentrate and take it slow. Nothing can happen. I always tell nothing can happen until we call it. Whether we're doing football, basketball, hockey, nothing can happen until I call it. It's not a strike until I call it. It's not a ball until I call it. It's not goaltending until James calls it. There's a foul until he calls it. So, and I tell them just take your time, concentration, and just let everything come to you. Be diligently slow on your timing.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That for us, that's about processing the play. When we talk about in basketball, we say let the play start, develop, finish, and then make your decision. And late decisions are always better than early decisions. And fans and coaches don't understand that. You'll hear them say, "Oh, that's a late whistle," and in referee talk, that's actually a good thing. You've processed the whole play. You're playing it back in your mind, and now you have come to the determination that a foul has occurred. And so now it's literally like a second. It's not as long as people think. Second and a half at most. But you want to make sure you are calling what you thought you saw. And so you give your mind the ability to play it back very quickly before you make your decision. Because when we make it too early, we're usually wrong. If we can let it all finish and then we process, we tend to be much more accurate.
Yeah, right. You're absolutely right. I agree with you 100% on that, James.
How do you, as you continue to grow in your career, how do you continue to stay on top of the changes in the game? Because like I know as a fan, the pitch clock last year was a big adjustment for me as a fan, a welcome one for many of us because the game was a lot quicker.
For us too.
But I'm sure over the course of your career, you've seen a lot of evolution in the game. And talk to us a little bit about that process for you.
Well, you gotta. There's times of change and everything, so you've got to change with the time. And there's some changes that have been good, some changes that have been bad, but the majority of changes that have come in baseball have been good. So having young guys on my crew also keeps me young at heart. They know the rules. They're in it all. And these young kids coming up, they're good. They are very good, and they keep me on my toes. And I got the young kid Eric Backus was with me last year, and he's as sharp as all could be. I mean, he is such a good umpire. And I got him on my crew again this year, so I'm so blessed to have him. And all these young guys, they know the rules. They have brought those rules to the minor leagues. So by the time it gets to the big leagues and I get these young guys with me, they know it back like the back of their hand. So it's easy for me to learn from them. And like James says, if you're not learning, you might as well get out. You're always learning. So I got the young guys and they're teaching me the new rules. And, when something happens, I call them in. I'm like, come here. What do we got here? What do we got? And I some young officials, they, because you have 20 years in the game, 15 years in the game, they're like, oh, I don't want to step on their toes. But as soon as they walk in the locker room, I'm like, hey, you know what? I left my ego over in my room. It's laying on my bed. So no matter what, I don't have no ego on this field. If you see something that I'm doing something wrong, come in and take care of it.
You talked about the young people coming up, and that's very similar to things James and Kane have talked about. They've said, as a younger member of the referee crew, your rules knowledge, that's something that you can bring because the younger referees are a little bit more steeped in the most recent changes to the rule book. So so many similarities when you talk about the work you do, Laz. It's really interesting. I think basketball referees would have a lot to learn just from studying what an umpire does, and I think vice versa as well. What advice do you have for someone that is trying to grow in their ability as an umpire or as a referee, as a sports official in general, that wants to continue growing in their craft and in their career? What would be your biggest advice to them?
I got two.
Okay.
Work hard and have fun. Because as long as you're working hard and you're having fun, you're good. I've had fun my whole career, and I've been written up because I've laughed on the field, because I've smiled on the field, because I'm not serious. But that's just me. If something funny happens on the field where a runner is going by second base and trips on the base, and now he falls flat face on right by the shortstop, that's funny. So when he comes back, I'm like, "Yo, dude, you were safe. You were safe the first time, and you're safe the second time." And they just start to laugh. And you got to have a sense of humor.
That's right.
You got to have a sense of humor. You got to have some charisma. You got to be able to adapt and talk to these guys too. Sometimes, and I'm sure James and Kane will attest to this. Fans think that we're robots.
Yeah.
We don't have families. That we're out there and we go to the hotel room. We sit in front of a laptop and computer and read the rule book. We got lives. We got families. We get up in the morning. We have breakfast. We go work out. We go shopping. We go see the city. Just like a regular player would do with his family if they come to a city that they've never been to before. We do that with our families, our friends, when they come and see us. So we're not robots. We're human beings. We bleed just the same way as anybody else does. And as long as they keep having fun and working on their craft, they'll be all right. They'll be good. Big things, have fun. Have fun.
Oh, go ahead, James.
No, that's just a great advice.
It is. And what I love is taking something that's kind of could be complicated. Oh, how do you improve in this very, interesting and challenging craft? And you just made something very simple. And that's probably a key to getting better at anything, including being a sports official as well, is taking complicated things and simplifying them. So that's really cool. I know Kane has to drop here in a minute, and we're coming up to the end of our time here. But I did want to ask about your hat, because you were talking about sports officials seeming like robots to the fans, and I think that's an Umps Care hat.
Yes,
and
it
that's
is.
something that Umps Care is really passionate about. They're friends of ours as well, and maybe you could just briefly talk about your interaction with Umps Care and the work that they do.
Yeah, it's Umps Care was created, I want to say about 15 years ago, and we have hospital visits to visit kids that have cancer at children's hospitals, which is very touching. Having 5 grandkids and all boys that are healthy, it really hits home. Just this past weekend, we were in Arizona doing our physicals and our meetings, and we had a golf tournament where all the guys came out and golf, and we would get in a group. And with me, I don't know how to golf, so I get in the cart and ride around and meet people at the tee, not either at the tee, and yell at them. I'm like, "Come on, let's go hit it," And they look at me like, I said, "This is when I'm behind the plate, I get yelled at all the time. So I just want to see how can you do with teeing off." And they kind of enjoyed it, And when it gets onto the green, I try to putt, so I'm a mulligan because they got a mulligan. I'm like, "You know what? I'll putt for you, and I can show you how." And I usually miss, but at least they know how it's run. We have during the season where boys and girls club, they come in, Wounded Warriors. We have that too. So we do. The UmpsCare does a lot of good. If they go to umpscare.com, we got 3 ladies that that run it, and they're absolutely amazing in doing what they do.
You just talked about the human element, that referees and umpires, they're humans. And, most people, most fans and coaches and players, they don't know what we do in our off time. And it's a lot of service work, which is, if you're going to, in my opinion, is even much more valuable than the games we call, when you can go to a hospital and you can talk to a sick child and their family. We did a lot when we would go into poor neighborhoods and work with lower middle class students and encourage them about reading and all the things that they can do with their lives. These are things that umpires and referees do because we're servants out there. We service the game, but we check our egos, but we really care about people, and what people do, what people like you all in MLB and the NBA's union. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that these women and men devote their time and energy to, some really good causes. So I really, really do applaud you all and your staff for what you do there, because that's really phenomenal. I can't imagine having a child that's sick and with cancer, what that family's enduring. So for them to be able to spend some time with MLB umpires, that really has to kind of at least shine a little bit of light and during their cloudy season.
Yeah, because there's no guarantees that they're going to get out of the hospital. And when we do these hospital visits, the first thing they tell us, hey, don't ask them how they're doing. Don't ask them when they're going to get out, because some of these kids don't get out, or are not going to get out. Some of these kids have been there for years, and it's tough on them. I've seen parents that split. The father goes to work in the morning, and in the afternoon when he gets off, he goes home, takes a shower, and goes relieves the mom, and the mom goes to work at night, or vice versa. And it's a tough situation. And like the Boys and Girls Club, they come in. The guy was the guy from Wendy's. We do them too.
Dave Thomas
Foundation. I remember having these two boys from the Dave Thomas Foundation, and they were getting ready to go into middle school. One was in middle school, the other one, his brother, was in elementary, and they were going to be together in middle school the following year. And I told the older brother, hey, now you can watch over your brother and take care of him. And when you get to senior high, do the same thing. And, and I always tell all these young kids going in, I say, you know what, make a deal with your parents. And when I was coming up, I didn't know anything about valedictorian, salutatorian, that it's a 4-year guaranteed scholarship for both that your parents don't have to pay anything for. And I tell these young kids, I'm like, you know what? This is a time to shine. You got 4 years to be a valedictorian, to be a salutatorian, to get a scholarship for your mind, for your brain. And that way your parents don't have to pay for none of your schooling. Make a deal with your parents. And if you get a scholarship for playing ball or your brain or anything, that you trade it in for a car. And they look at me like, wow, that's a good idea. And the parents are there too. And the parents look at their son or their daughter and say, you know what? That's a good idea. If I don't have to pay for your schooling, I will buy your car. The schools nowadays, it's $30,000 a year. For 4 years, that's $120,000. Car is going to cost them $20,000 at minimum. Mm-hmm. So that's a win-win situation for the parents. And I tell them all the time, I do that. So these two kids, I tell them, I told them the same thing. Hey, make your parents proud and talk to your dad. And one of the kids, he broke my heart. He goes, that's the younger one. He goes, sir, we don't have a dad. And I had to bite my lip. I had to fight my tears away, because here I'm talking to these kids and trying to give them hope. And the younger one just came out. I was like, wow. And even now I'm talking about it and I get chills up and down my body, thinking about this kid that all the promise in the world, and he can't share it with his dad, and that's tough. My dad passed away 12 years ago, and he was my biggest advocate, my biggest support. And when I did something wrong, he was on me too. So
Yeah.
Us men, I think we need our dads there for support and to tell us when we're doing right and wrong. And feel so bad.
100% agree.
Well, when you put it in those terms, it just makes everything else seem so small.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. But it's great work that you're doing with Umps Care, and you talked about the leadership team there. They're actually starting a sibling organization, Sports Officials Care. So they're starting to do events with officials across the other major sports as well. So really awesome set of organizations there.
I know Sony's been talking with them, so we're going to do some stuff with Ref Masters, working in conjunction with them. We certainly support their cause and their efforts, and so yeah, we're kind of figuring out a way where we can work together.
Count me in.
Okay.
100%.
All right.
I enjoy Sonny. I enjoy doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
Putting my craft out there, to my knowledge, trying to teach people what we do. I enjoy talking about my craft and all that.
It's really interesting, and I'm looking forward to getting into more baseball this year as well. So for those of you out there listening to this that are currently umpiring baseball, interested to umpire baseball, used to umpire baseball, whatever it might be, we hope that you'll continue to plug in with us at Ref Masters as baseball season gets ready. Laz, again, thank you so much for this time today. Love to have you back sometime in the future. Amidst your schedule is about to get crazy.
Yeah.
And, I hope to see you spring break.
We don't talk, Sonny. We don't talk too much during the middle of their season or the middle of my season. We talk to them. They talk to us at the end of their season and give us the plug. Hey, I'll see you later. And then when our season comes to the end, it's like, hey, James, get ready. You have a good season. It's funny. I have a lot of officials or basketball officials that I talk to, and I'm like, hey, you're getting ready to go. Good luck. Go get them. Have a good season. And in the back end, when we're getting ready to start the season, James and John Goble and all they call me, hey, how you doing? How's the body? Everything's good? Good luck. Go get them.
Yeah. People have no idea it's such a long season, and your body, you just get worn down. So when you start seeing those pitchers and catchers report, you just know we're almost there, baby. We're almost at the end.
and it's such a fun and an interesting times. I remember in Toronto we had a game. They had a game after the games were with. We met up and it was 8 officials, talking. And it's funny because you have the 2 crew chiefs sitting together, and then the 2 guys sitting together, the 3 guys sitting together, the 4,
Yeah.
It's like the domino effect.
Everybody naturally navigates to
the one with their experience and all that. The only bad thing about it is the 2 crew chiefs always pick up the doggone tab.
Yeah.
These young folks, they got zippers on their pockets.
That's what we want to create at Ref Masters. We want to create a community of officials across sports, all sports, to learn from each other and to have someone to be part of their network and to connect with. So, yeah, Laz, again, thanks so much, man. Looking forward to seeing you out there on the field this season, and we'll talk soon.
Danny, thank you so much, James. Good talking to you. Good seeing you, brother. Hopefully, we'll see you somewhere around. If you're in Florida,
absolutely,
let me know.
Absolutely, we'll do, my friend. Thanks for the time, Laz.
Really Danny, anytime.
To everyone out there listening, thank you so much again for checking this out. Hope you'll tune in to our next Ref Masters podcast. Until then, go forth and run the game.